Hello there, friend. Welcome back to Sleep Lab Science, the little corner of the universe where curiosity moves slowly, softly, like ripples drifting across a quiet midnight lake. I'm so glad you're here. If you're settling into bed, or simply trying to unwind after a long, busy day, just allow yourself to melt gently into the sound of my voice and the calm, weightless space we're about to enter together. Tonight, we're going to drift into another soothing journey, a peaceful exploration where science becomes a lullaby, and the universe reveals its secrets in whispers instead of thunder. There is no rush here, no deadlines, no sharp edges, only the steady rhythm of your breath and the gentle unfolding of knowledge, like a flower opening under moonlight. As you relax your shoulders, soften your jaw, and let your eyes grow heavy, imagine yourself floating just slightly above the moment. Think of this space as a cozy observatory of the mind, walls lined with stardust, the air warm and calm, every thought moving at the speed of a quiet dream. In this sanctuary, the world outside grows distant, blurry, unimportant, and the world within becomes beautifully, peacefully alive. Here at Sleep Lab Science, learning isn't something you push through, it's something you sink into. Every fact is a feather, every insight a gentle wave, and every story a soft door leading deeper into rest. Tonight's journey will invite you to wander through realms you already know, yet perhaps have never really felt. Places where cosmic history drifts like fog, where nature's patterns breathe in slow motion, where the mysteries of existence reveal themselves the way fireflies glow in the darkness, quietly, delicately, almost shyly. As you listen, feel free to let your mind drift. If you fall asleep, that's perfectly okay. It only means you've let go, and the story has done its job. These videos aren't meant to keep you awake, but to guide you gently toward that soft, weightless place where dreams begin. So take one more deep breath, in and out. Let the day dissolve like mist. Let your thoughts stretch out like constellations, relaxed and glowing. You're safe here, you're calm here, you're home here. Now, whenever you're ready, we'll begin tonight's quiet adventure. Just follow the sound of my voice as we step slowly, peacefully, into the world of wonders waiting in the dark. Part I, drifting into the solar sea. Imagine, just for a moment, that you're lying back inside a darkened observatory, a place where silence feels soft, and time begins to loosen around the edges. The ceiling above you slowly fades away, revealing a velvet black sky sprinkled with stars, and somewhere in that gentle darkness, our solar system quietly floats, not rushing, not spinning wildly, but drifting, peacefully, like lanterns set loose on a cosmic river. Tonight, we begin our journey by simply arriving here, in this calm ocean of space where everything moves in slow motion. The sun, at the center of this great celestial family, burns quietly, not roaring like a furnace, but shimmering with warm, ancient light that has traveled millions of kilometers simply to brush softly against your skin. Its glow is steady, comforting, almost like a quiet fireplace at the end of a long night. As we drift closer, you might picture the sun not as a harsh ball of fire, but as a glowing sphere of golden plasma, gently humming with energy. Imagine its surface not crackling with violence, but blooming in slow waves, ripples of magnetic light curling like petals made of heat. In this sleepy version of the cosmos, everything slows, everything breathes. Around this warm star, our planets begin their long, graceful orbits. Earth, our home, glides like a blue marble, wrapped in soft white clouds. Mars, with its rust-colored deserts, seems to glow with the muted warmth of an ember. Jupiter's swirling storms stretch out like brushstrokes painted across a giant canvas, each moving slowly enough to lull a restless mind. Saturn's rings shimmer like frost caught in moonlight. Uranus tilts gently, as if trying to listen to the stars. Neptune whispers in dark blue shades at the edge of the sunlit sea. In this peaceful drift, the solar system becomes not a harsh and empty void, but a warm, spacious room full of silent companions. Every orbit feels like a rhythm, a celestial breath, in and out, again and again, for billions of years. And as you continue to drift with them, you might feel your own thoughts falling into that same rhythm, lengthening, slowing, settling, like grains of sand coming to rest on the ocean floor. Soon, we'll begin exploring each world more closely, not rushing, not analyzing, but gently wandering through their quiet mysteries. But before we move on, let this picture of the solar system settle inside you like a soft, glowing memory. Take a breath and drift with me into Part 2. Part 2, the Whispering Sun. As we glide a little closer to the center of our cosmic home, the sun greets us with a warm, steady glow. Not loud, not fierce. Simply present the way a candle flame flickers gently in a quiet room. For billions of years, it has burned with a calm constancy, holding the entire solar system in a soft gravitational embrace. The sun is often described with dramatic words: fiery, explosive, powerful. But tonight, let's imagine it differently. Let's feel it as the great glowing heart of our neighborhood, beating in a slow, soothing rhythm that brings warmth and life to everything encircling it. Inside the sun, particles dance in endless loops, fusing and unfusing, releasing energy that takes thousands, sometimes millions of years, just to reach the surface. When that light finally escapes, it travels through space at the speed of dreams, touching each planet gently as it passes. The warmth you feel on your skin during a quiet morning, that light left the sun long before the first humans walked on Earth. It is ancient, patient, comforting. Its surface, though turbulent, can be reimagined as a living ocean of light swells, rising and falling like golden tides. Sunspots bloom like shifting shadows. Solar prominences arch like glowing ribbons, slowly unfurling in the winds of space. Everything moves, but at a pace that feels almost meditative when observed from afar. And yet, despite its enormity and energy, the sun is surprisingly stable, a calm anchor in the cosmic sea. Its bright glow keeps Earth warm enough for oceans to sparkle, plants to grow, and us to breathe. Without it, our world would be a silent, frozen sphere drifting in darkness. With it, we get life, seasons, warmth, and colors. As you float here, imagine that warm light brushing across your face, not hot, not intense, but soft, like morning sunlight filtering through curtains. Let it relax your shoulders, let it quiet the pace of your thoughts. And as we begin drifting outward, away from the sun's gentle glow, we follow the golden path. It creates a dimming light that still guides us through space like a lantern leading the way. Next, we'll visit the nearby worlds that share this glowing neighborhood with us: Mercury, Venus, and Earth. Small, rocky, ancient companions that orbit quietly along with us. Whenever you're ready, we'll drift onward into Part 3. Part 3, the Inner Worlds. Leaving the warmth of the sun, we glide gently into the realm of the inner planets. Small but ancient worlds shaped by billions of years of quiet cosmic transformation. They orbit close to the sun, where light is strong, shadows are sharp, and the days unfold in long, slow cycles. Yet tonight, even these harsh environments soften into dreamy landscapes as we drift through them. First comes Mercury, small and quiet, like a tiny stone resting near the fire. It has no air to carry sound, so if you stood there, the universe would feel truly silent, the kind of silence that feels thick and comforting, like a heavy blanket. Mercury's surface is covered in craters that look like frozen ripples from ancient impacts. The planet doesn't rush. It rotates slowly, taking almost 59 Earth days to complete a single turn. Imagine a sunrise that takes hours, a morning that unfolds with the pace of a dream, and a sunset that lingers like the last ember of a fading candle. Then, we drift toward Venus, sometimes called Earth's sister, though she wears a different face. Blanketed in soft golden clouds, Venus seems peaceful from afar. The cloud layers move slowly, swirling like warm mist inside a glowing globe. The colors are gentle, muted, almost painted. It's a world wrapped in its own shimmering cocoon. And though its surface is harsh, its upper atmosphere is surprisingly calm, where clouds float like drifting continents made of light. If planets could dream, Venus would dream in soft shades of amber. Finally, we reach Earth, our home, the only world we know that sings with life. From this perspective, floating just above its glowing curve, Earth feels like a warm whisper in the vast quiet of space. Blue oceans swirl with soft currents, clouds drift like cotton pulled across the sky, and continents glow gently beneath the sun's touch. It's a planet that breathes, exhaling forests, inhaling oceans, moving through its cycles of seasons like a slow, steady heartbeat. From this peaceful vantage point, you might imagine hearing Earth's faint hum, the vibration of life, weather, and oceans blending into a soft lullaby. The inner worlds, with all their differences, orbit together like a trio of ancient instruments in a quiet celestial symphony. And slowly, we begin drifting outward, toward the vast frontier, where giants made of gas and wind float like colossal guardians of the solar system. Whenever you're ready, we'll continue into Part 4, Part IV Earth, the dreaming ocean world. As we drift closer to the soft blue sphere of Earth, the warmth of sunlight gently fades across its surface, spilling into oceans that move with a slow, tidal breath. From afar, Earth feels less like a planet and more like a living poem, oceans swirling like ink on a page of deep blue silk, clouds drifting in long spirals that resemble strokes from an invisible painter's hand. Everything here moves slowly, peacefully, as if the whole planet is caught in a quiet dream. Earth rotates with a steady rhythm, turning once every 24 hours, a soft spin that creates the rise of sunrise, the fall of sunset, and the gentle heartbeat of day and night. If you watch closely from space, the patterns of cloud and water shift in a slow, mesmerizing dance. Storms curl into subtle spirals, continents glow with morning light, and the night side of Earth twinkles gently with the tiny sparks of human life. Imagine floating above it all, letting your consciousness glide along the curve of its horizon. Below you, oceans stretch endlessly, deep and dark, echoing with the faintest memory of Earth's ancient beginnings. These waters have seen everything: the rise of tiny single-celled organisms, the bloom of coral reefs, the drifting of continents, and the quiet footsteps of humans walking along sandy shores. Drift a little closer, and you can almost feel the pulse of life humming through the planet's crust. Forests whisper with wind and leaves. Mountains stand like ancient guardians wrapped in mist. The poles shimmer with auroras, ribbons of soft green light unfolding across the sky like cosmic curtains. Earth is not just a place of land and water, it's a world of cycles. The cycle of water rising and falling, the cycle of air shifting in slow global breaths, the cycle of life blooming and fading, the cycle of time rolling forward in gentle, patient waves. If you listen closely, not with your ears, but with the quiet part of your mind, you might sense the faint vibration of the planet spinning beneath you. A low, soothing hum, a lullaby sung by oceans, clouds, forests, and moonlight. And speaking of moonlight, there, drifting nearby, is our companion waiting to be explored in the next chapter of our sleepy journey. Take a slow breath, and let's float onward, into Part V. Part V, the moon, keeper of quiet tides. As we drift away from Earth's soft glow, the moon rises into view, pale, gentle, and serene, like a lantern carved from stone and dust. The sunlight spills across its surface in slow waves, revealing craters that look like frozen ripples from ancient impacts. Everything here is still, perfectly still. There is no wind, no sound, no movement except the quiet shifting of light. Imagine standing on the lunar surface. The horizon curves closer than Earth's, giving the world a cozy, enclosed feeling, like being inside a dim, quiet bowl of sky. Above you, space opens endlessly deep, black, and unbroken. The stars do not twinkle here. They shine like tiny, unmoving crystals. Earth hangs overhead like a glowing marble swirled with blue and white, gently illuminating the moon's dusty plains. But the moon is more than just Earth's companion. It is a sculptor of motion, a quiet architect of tides. Its gravity pulls at Earth's oceans, guiding them in long, rhythmic sweeps, rising, falling, rising again. Without the moon, Earth's seas would move differently. Weather would shift. Even life, as it evolved over billions of years, might have taken a different path. In this slow, sleepy vision of the cosmos, the moon feels like a guardian, gentle, steady, endlessly patient. It has been with Earth since the earliest days, formed from a cosmic collision that fused Earth's ancient surface with molten rock thrown into space. From that fiery beginning came this pale, peaceful sphere. The moon glows with a soft light, not its own but borrowed from the sun, like a mirror reflecting warmth back into the night. Its surface is covered in fine, powdery regolith, the result of millions of years of meteor dust settling and compacting. If you pressed your hand into it, the imprint would stay undisturbed for centuries. As we glide over its surface, the shadows of craters stretch across the ground in sharp, beautiful lines. Some craters are so deep that sunlight never touches them. Inside these eternal shadows, frozen water hides quietly, locked away for billions of years. These pockets of ice are like ancient secrets, preserved in silence. And as we slowly drift past, Earth remains in the sky, always in the same place, always keeping watch. The moon is tidally locked, meaning one side always faces us. In a way, it has been holding eye contact with our planet for millions of nights. Now, as we leave this quiet stone lantern behind, we drift deeper into the solar system, where vast landscapes of dust, rock, and ancient debris form a belt between the worlds. When you're ready, we'll float into Part V. Part VI, the asteroid belt, a river of ancient stone. Drifting further from the moon, we glide into a region of space that feels older than memory, the asteroid belt. This wide, silent band of rock orbits gently between Mars and Jupiter, forming a kind of cosmic boundary between the inner and outer worlds. But it is not the chaotic field of crashing stones you might see in movies. No, out here, space is vast, calm, and open. Each asteroid drifts slowly, gracefully, separated by hundreds of thousands of kilometers of empty quiet. Imagine a river, not of water, but of stone, ancient stones, stones older than Earth's continents, stones that have been floating for more than 4 billion years, unchanged, untouched, unbothered by noise or wind or storms. They move in long, looping paths around the sun, like beads sliding along an invisible thread of gravity. Some asteroids are tiny, the size of pebbles or dust grains. Others are enormous, like Ceres, a dwarf planet with icy materials hidden beneath its surface. Its shape is smooth, rounded by time and quiet pressure. Some scientists believe there may once have been oceans trapped under its crust, long ago, shifting slowly in the darkness. Drift a little deeper, and the asteroids take on shapes that seem almost artistic. Jagged, sculpted fragments of ancient collisions look like pieces of broken sculpture drifting in infinite silence. Some spin gently, others drift with a kind of sleepy stillness. Their surfaces are covered in craters, marks left by a billion years of drifting dust meeting drifting stone. There is no sound here, only movement, soft, patient movement. As sunlight travels outward, it grows dimmer, but it still touches each stone with a faint golden glow. Shadows stretch long across their surfaces, sharp and elegant, creating patterns that look almost like brushstrokes. If you reached out to one, your hand would meet rock older than Earth itself, fragments of the solar system's earliest days, when dust first clumped into pebbles, pebbles into boulders, boulders into worlds. Floating here feels like drifting through a museum of creation. Every fragment is a relic. Every orbit is a story. Every motion is slow, steady, and calming. And as we glide through this quiet stone river, the path ahead grows darker, colder, and wider, because soon we'll meet the giant's worlds made not of rock, but of wind and cloud. With your next breath, we drift gently into Part 7. Part 7, Jupiter, the gentle giant of swirling storms. As the quiet stone river of the asteroid belt slowly fades behind us, the darkness ahead begins to glow with soft, shifting hues. A faint amber light first appears, then bands of white, then deep rusty reds drifting in long, sweeping curves. And eventually, the giant comes into view. Jupiter, the largest planet in our solar system, floating like a colossal world of wind and cloud. From afar, Jupiter feels less like a planet and more like a moving painting. Its atmosphere, a layered tapestry of swirling currents and drifting storms. Each band wraps around the planet like a ribbon of softly blended colors, stretching in slow, sweeping lines across its face. Nothing here is solid, nothing is still. Jupiter is a world made entirely of motion. Imagine drifting near a world so large that more than 1,000 Earths could fit inside it. Yet instead of feeling overwhelming, its presence is calm, steady, and almost comforting. The soft glow of sunlight gently reflects off its clouds, warming them in subtle, muted shades of cream, gold, and faded red like watercolor brushstrokes blending on a wet canvas. As we move closer, Jupiter's storms begin to reveal their quiet beauty. The famous Great Red Spot, though described as a raging storm, appears tonight like a giant swirling rose, its petals slowly unfurling in a spiral of gentle, muted crimson. This storm has been swirling for centuries, perhaps millennia, yet, from this peaceful vantage point, its movement feels almost soothing, like watching cream drift through coffee. The winds here can reach immense speeds, but their motion seen from afar carries a kind of hypnotic grace. Stripes of clouds flow in opposite directions, sliding past each other in long, smooth currents. You might imagine them as soft ribbons floating in a gentle breeze, weaving through the atmosphere in a slow, endless dance. And hidden beneath these clouds, deeper and deeper, Jupiter's atmosphere grows thicker, darker, denser. Eventually, the gas compresses so much that it becomes liquid. Imagine an ocean of liquid hydrogen swirling around the planet, illuminated faintly from below by waves of heat rising from the core. Even further in, pressure grows so intense that hydrogen becomes metallic, a shimmering, reflective fluid carrying Jupiter's magnetic heartbeat. Surrounding the giant are its many moons, more than 80 companions drifting in elegant orbits. Some are tiny, no larger than mountains. Others are worlds of their own: volcanic Io, icy Europa, massive Ganymede, shadowed Callisto. Together, they form a miniature solar system, each moon casting soft shadows across Jupiter's cloud tops as they glide through space. Europa, with its smooth white surface and hidden ocean beneath, appears like a frosted marble drifting in slow silence. Io glows faintly with volcanic warmth. Ganymede, larger than Mercury, carries its own magnetic field, a quiet, steady pulse in the dark. As we drift past Jupiter, its immense presence gently recedes behind us, becoming once again a distant, softly glowing sphere. Ahead, a world of shimmering rings begins to appear, delicate and ethereal, like floating bands of ice suspended in darkness. With a slow breath, we drift onward into Part 8. Part 8, Saturn, keeper of the silver rings. As Jupiter's swirling hues fade into the distance, the space around us grows colder, quieter, and more open. Then, gradually, a faint gleam appears, a soft, shimmering halo of icy light. It grows brighter as we approach, until finally, Saturn emerges a pale, golden world, adorned with the most delicate rings in the solar system. Saturn does not glow brightly. Instead, it radiates a gentle, muted warmth, soft gold, blended with cream, like candlelight reflected through frosted glass. Its atmosphere moves in subtle, velvety bands, smoother and calmer than Jupiter's. Everything about Saturn feels gentle, composed, serene. But it is the rings that draw the eye. They stretch hundreds of thousands of kilometers outward, yet are only as thin as a few stories of a building. Picture them not as solid slabs, but as vast, whispering streams of ice, billions of tiny shards drifting in wide, elegant spirals around the planet. Each piece of ice reflects sunlight in a faint, silvery shimmer. Some fragments are the size of mountains, others are no larger than grains of sand. Together, they form waves of light that ripple across the darkness, curling around Saturn like floating lace. Imagine drifting close to them, letting the soft glow wash over you. The rings are nearly silent, but if silence could hum, you might imagine hearing a faint, crystalline resonance, the gentle vibration of countless fragments moving in harmony. Scientists believe these rings may be remnants of ancient moons torn apart by Saturn's gravity, or leftover shards from the dawn of the solar system. Whatever their origin, they now circle Saturn in endlessly graceful orbits, always moving, never touching, shimmering in the soft light of a distant Sunday. Beyond the rings drift Saturn's moons, each one unique. Titan, wrapped in a golden haze, with rivers and lakes not of water but of liquid methane. Enceladus, a small icy world that sprays plumes of water vapor into space, glowing like a tiny fountain in the dark. Rhea, Tethys, Dione, and many more, each drifting in peaceful silence. Titan is especially dreamlike. Its thick, hazy atmosphere softens all light into amber hues. Its surface is dotted with icy lakes that reflect dim sunlight like polished glass. If you walked there, sound would be muffled, footsteps absorbed into the thick air. It would feel like exploring inside a slow, golden dream. Enceladus, by contrast, is bright and icy. Beneath its frozen crust lies a global ocean, warm enough to send plumes of water jetting into space. These geysers sparkle in Saturn's light, creating tiny arcs of frost that drift back down like slow-falling snow. As Saturn drifts behind us, its rings fade into a thin silver line, then into a soft glimmer, then into memory. Ahead lies a world tipped on its side blue, cold, and wrapped in a sleepy swirl of haze. Now, let's drift softly into Part IX. Part IX, Uranus, the silent, tilted world. As Saturn's luminous rings slowly fade from view, the darkness of space becomes smoother, quieter, and colder. The sun feels distant now, a pale spark instead of a warm presence. In this deep, gentle cold, a soft turquoise glow appears. It grows, brightens, and eventually forms into a perfect pale blue sphere, Uranus. A planet unlike any other, tilted so far on its side that it seems to be lying down, floating lazily through space. While other planets spin upright, Uranus rolls along its orbit, like a giant marble drifting in a slow, cosmic dream. From a distance, its color is soothing, a dim, dreamy blue mixed with hints of green, like sea foam beneath moonlight. The atmosphere blurs into a soft gradient, with no harsh storms visible, no dramatic bands or swirling clouds. Uranus wears its colors like a veil of mist, serene and undisturbed. Its rotation is slow and calm. A day here lasts 17 Earth hours, but because of the planet's extreme tilt, seasons are unlike anything on Earth. One pole can bask in 50 years of sunlight, while the other rests in 50 years of quiet, gentle darkness. Imagine a season that lasts half a lifetime, twilight stretching into decades, sunrise coming only once in a generation. Despite its peaceful appearance, Uranus is shaped by powerful forces hidden beneath its calm exterior. Inside, layers of icy materials mix with water, methane, and ammonia. These ices, under immense pressure, form a mantle that may be filled with churning currents, slow, deep, and silent. Some scientists believe that deep within Uranus, carbon may crystallize under intense pressure, forming diamonds. Imagine rain that falls not as water, but as shimmering carbon crystals drifting downward in slow-motion showers. A world where diamonds do not sparkle but sink quietly into the deep, dark interior. Around Uranus drift a faint set of rings, fragile, thin, almost invisible. They look like faint strokes of charcoal etched against the dark. And circling the planet are dozens of moons, each one small, irregular, mysterious. Miranda, one of the most peculiar, has cliffs towering 20 kilometers high, some of the tallest known in the solar system. But in our sleepy universe, these cliffs feel soft, gentle, like folds of fabric draped across an ancient, icy tapestry. As we drift away, Uranus shrinks into a pale turquoise gem, glowing faintly in the darkness. And further ahead, in the coldest reaches of the solar system, a deep sapphire world waits for us. Whenever you're ready, we will drift into Part X, the restful dance of the gas giants. As we drift even farther from the sun, leaving behind the rocky planets and the soft shimmer of the asteroid belt, the solar system begins to swell open like a vast dark ocean. The light fades, but it does not disappear, rather, it stretches thin, as if diluted gently into space. You may imagine yourself floating here, unhurried and weightless, wrapped in an endless dusk. This is the realm of the giants, the great planetary balloons of swirling cloud and quiet storms, each one enormous enough to cradle entire worlds within its shadow. And in this peaceful drifting, we can take our time, slow breaths, soft thoughts, as we ease into the restful dance of Jupiter and Saturn. Jupiter is always the first to greet us. It rises like a softly glowing marble, striated with creamy bands of beige, cinnamon, and pale gold. From afar, it carries a sense of ancient wisdom, as though it has been dreaming for billions of years. You may notice how its storms turn in slow spirals, not chaotic, but deliberate, like the strokes of a painter who already knows the ending of their artwork. Even the Great Red Spot, which has raged for centuries, feels less like a tempest and more like a meditative motion, a quiet, stirring, never still, never rushed. As we drift beside it, we witness the gentle choreography of its moons. Io glowing with volcanic heat, Europa smooth and icy like a frozen pearl, Ganymede large enough to be called a planet, and Callisto pockmarked with the memories of ancient impacts. They orbit Jupiter in tidy rhythms, as though following an unwritten musical score only they can hear. Their movements are steady and predictable, bringing a sense of comfort like watching lanterns floating in a slow river. But the peace deepens as we glide toward Saturn. Here, the darkness around us softens again as the planet's rings catch what little sunlight remains and scatter it like powdered glass. Saturn does not shout, it whispers. Its colors muted ochre, pale honey, and silver-gray feel as though they were chosen to soothe. Even the rings move with a delicate stillness, creating the impression of a vast cosmic wind chime frozen mid-sway. You might picture yourself reaching toward those rings, though in truth they are not solid. They are made of countless icy fragments, some tiny as dust, others the size of mountains, all following gentle elliptical loops. When light hits them, they glow faintly, like frost catching the dawn. Together, Jupiter and Saturn create a kind of balance, like guardians at a threshold. Their gravity shapes the solar system, quietly sweeping debris, protecting inner worlds, adding stability without demanding attention. They are not fiery like the sun, nor sharp like the rocky planets. They are soft, enveloping, calm. To float among them is to feel held, If you listen closely, listening with imagination rather than ears, you might sense the low hum of hydrogen and helium swirling through their atmospheres, a bass note of slow-moving gas currents. It is a soundless lullaby, composed only in motion and light. And so, we drift on, leaving the giants behind, gently, as though stepping away from a peaceful dream. Ahead, the solar system grows colder, but not unwelcoming. The calm deepens, becoming a kind of serene stillness that invites us to continue our quiet journey outward. Part XI. The dreamlike mystery of Uranus and Neptune. As the warm colors of the gas giants fade behind us, we enter a realm tinged in blues. The sun is now just a bright star, its warmth diluted into a soft glow. We drift toward the two most distant planets of our system, the ice giants. Their presence feels hushed, cool, contemplative, like entering a dream where everything is slow and gentle. Uranus appears first, a smooth turquoise sphere, as if carved from frosted glass. It spins not upright like most planets, but completely on its side, as though reclining in perpetual cosmic rest. Scientists believe a massive collision long ago tilted the planet, but from here, it simply seems serene, content to rotate at its own quiet pace. Its faint rings glide around it like thin, almost invisible halos, more like whispers than structures. You could imagine them shimmering softly, though in truth their particles are dark and subtle. Uranus feels like a planet that keeps secrets, but without urgency or fear, just a quiet, dreamy solitude. Its atmosphere, made of methane and cold hydrogen, moves in slow, barely visible patterns. Winds exist, storms exist, but everything is softened by distance and cold. The pale sunlight that reaches Uranus is so gentle that even violent storms appear muted, like watercolor shapes dissolving into one another. As we drift farther outward, Neptune begins to materialize from the darkness, a deeper blue, like an ocean that forgot it needed a surface. It has the most active winds in the solar system, yet their motion from this vantage feels meditative rather than fierce. Vast currents sweep across its atmosphere in silent loops. Occasional dark spots, massive storms form and fade like passing thoughts that never disturb the calm. Triton, Neptune's largest moon, orbits in the opposite direction of most moons, as though moving backward through time. Geysers of nitrogen ice sometimes erupt from its surface, creating faint plumes that drift gently into the thin atmosphere, shimmering for a moment before settling back down. Triton feels like a world half awake, half asleep, hovering between stillness and motion. Together, Uranus and Neptune form a pair, cool, distant, and contemplative. They mark the boundary between the ordinary and the mysterious, where sunlight grows soft and reality begins to resemble imagination. Floating here, you may feel a strange peace, the kind that comes from stepping away from noise, from heat, from urgency. The solar system's outer silence is not empty. It is soothing. It is a place where even immense planets whisper rather than roar. And as we drift onward, toward the dim and delicate frontier beyond Neptune, we carry this quiet with us, like a blanket of starlight. Part CI, into the Kuiper Belt, and the realm of dwarf planets. Leaving the ice giants behind, we glide into a region where the sun becomes no brighter than a large star. Your surroundings feel more like a cosmic night than a planetary system. Here lies the Kuiper Belt, a vast field of icy objects drifting in slow orbits, each one ancient and unhurried. It stretches like a misty ring around the solar system, quiet and dreamlike. Pluto appears first, small but not insignificant. Its surface is a patchwork of gentle colors, pale creams, soft browns, hints of blush pink. A heart-shaped region spreads across it, as though offering a silent greeting to travelers who venture this far. Though once considered the ninth planet, Pluto now seems content in its role as a dwarf planet, drifting peacefully in the cold. Its moon, Charon, is almost half its size, creating a lovely gravitational duet. The two bodies orbit a shared point in space, spinning together like partners in a slow, graceful dance. This synchronized motion brings a feeling of companionship into the deep outer dark. Even out here, far from warmth, objects still move in harmony. But Pluto is only one member of a broad, icy family. The Kuiper Belt holds countless small worlds. Makemake with its reddish glow, Haumea shaped like a spinning oval, Eris drifting in a stretched and distant orbit. Each has its own story, though none rush to tell it. Time feels stretched in this region, as if each second is allowed to rest before becoming the next. The sunlight here is soft and silvery. It touches every icy surface gently, almost affectionately. When it reflects off frozen methane or nitrogen, it creates a faint, dreamlike glow as though each object carries a pocket of starlight inside it. Drifting through the Kuiper Belt, we feel the solar system thinning. The objects become sparse. Silence grows deeper. Cold expands, but not harshly, more like stepping into a quiet winter forest where every sound is muffled by snow. You may feel suspended, floating between the familiar gravity of the sun and the open unknown beyond. At last, we reach the heliopause, the boundary where the sun's influence fades into the interstellar medium. It is not a sharp edge, but a gentle boundary, like mist, blending with the morning sky. This is where the solar system exhales, where the solar wind slows, sighs, and lets go. And yet, there is no fear in crossing this threshold, only wonder. Beyond lies the vastness between stars, calm and unclaiming. And as we pause here, hovering at the edge of the sun's warm breath, the journey feels both complete and ready to continue. Part X, Psi-AI, the sun at the edge of memory. As we linger at the sun's distant boundary, drifting in the delicate hush of the heliopause, something remarkable begins to happen. The sun, once a blazing presence dominating our sky, now feels more like a warm memory. Not gone, not diminished, simply softened by distance, like a childhood light seen through half-closed eyes. Its golden rays stretch this far as faint whispers, gently brushing the frozen dust of the Kuiper Belt. And here, suspended between the worlds, we are finally able to look at the sun, not as a star of heat, but as a star of story. For billions of years, this quiet sphere of hydrogen and helium has been burning in a calm, self-sustaining rhythm. Its surface roils, but from this distance, those fiery motions shrink into a pale shimmer, like gentle ripples on a pond. Every flare, every sunspot, every spinning loop of plasma appears softened as if wrapped in silk. Think of how many worlds depend on it. Every tree on Earth, every ocean wave, every breath of wind is powered by sunlight that began its journey in the sun's core millions of years before it reached us. Yet from here, the sun feels humble, almost shy, glowing modestly in the black ocean of interstellar space. If you hold an image of the sun in your mind, imagine it not as the harsh, bright orb seen from Earth's midday sky, but as a warm lantern hanging at the center of a vast, dark room. Its glow does not force itself outward. It simply exists, steady, patient, generous. The solar wind, once fast and strong, now drifts gently past your fingertips like the last exhale before sleep. Tiny particles that once streamed from the sun with urgency now move with unhurried calm. They have traveled their whole lives to reach this frontier, and here they rest. In this serene space, we gain a new perspective. We realize that the sun has never asked for thanks. It has quietly held our system together, lighting paths for comets, stirring currents in atmospheres, shaping the destinies of worlds. It has been our guardian without ever demanding to be known as one. You may picture all the planets orbiting it, each in their own quiet loop, like a cosmic mobile turning in slow motion. Mercury quick and tight, Venus calm and dense, Earth vibrant and blue, Mars dusty and wandering. Then the giants, carrying rings and storms like ornaments. And beyond them, the dwarf planets gliding on their gently stretched ellipses, all of them anchored by the sun's soft gravitational embrace. From here, they look like a family of lights circling a distant campfire. And if you breathe slowly, gently, you may feel as though you too are part of that slow dance. Another traveler orbiting the same ancient flame. This far from home, the sun does not feel distant, it feels peaceful. And as we turn our attention outward, beyond its fading glow, we carry its warmth with us. A quiet companion for the rest of the journey into the starlit unknown. Part XIV, the interstellar dark. And why it is not empty. Once the sun fades behind us, truly fades, becoming just another star among many. The darkness ahead stretches vast and silent. Not an oppressive darkness, but a velvety one. A darkness that seems to hold you gently, the way night holds a sleeping forest. Interstellar space is often described as empty, but this is not quite true. It is simply subtle. Its stories are told in whispers. Here, the particles are few and far between, tiny grains of dust floating like delicate ash. But each particle carries histories older than planets. They are remnants of ancient stars that lived and died long before our sun was born. Drifting alone, yet patient, waiting millions of years to perhaps become part of something new. You may imagine them glimmering softly, though in truth they are too small to shine. But your mind can give them a glow, a faint golden drift, like pollen moving through a beam of light. There are gases too thin as breath. Hydrogen atoms hovering in slow motion, occasionally meeting, occasionally parting, as if unsure whether to form something greater. Some of these atoms will remain alone forever. Others, one day, may collapse into a new star. But for now, they take their time. Interstellar time. The magnetic fields here are ghost-like threads stretching across unimaginable distances. They bend and swirl, not hurriedly but with the grace of rivers. We can almost feel them guiding the dust grains in gentle spirals. If you listen with your imagination, the darkness hums. Not audibly, but with a presence, a cosmic stillness that vibrates softly, like the deep silence beneath ocean waves. Occasionally, faraway starlight passes through clouds of dust, turning them faintly blue or red. These clouds, called nebulae, are nurseries of stars. Their colors are soft watercolor washes against black space, shapes slowly shifting over millions of years. To drift near one is to witness a sky in perpetual dawn. Far away, you might catch a glimpse of a rogue planet, a lonely world with no sun, roaming freely between star systems. It is not tragic, it is peaceful. A traveler like us, even cosmic rays, those fast-moving particles from distant supernovae, arrive here without urgency. They pass through us like gentle flickers, reminders that the universe is larger than we can hold in thought. Interstellar space is vast, yes, but it is not empty. It is full of patience, full of quiet things, waiting to become something more. And as we continue drifting deeper into this dark ocean, we find ourselves relaxing even further. Because if the universe can take its time, so can we. Part XV. The nearest stars and the silent gravity between them. Far out in the interstellar night, the stars begin to feel closer again, not in distance, but in presence. You begin to sense their gravity, faint but deliberate, like gentle hands cupping the space around them. The nearest star to our sun is Proxima Centauri, a small red dwarf glowing with quiet persistence. It does not burn with fierce intensity. Instead, it simmers soft, cool, steady. From afar, Proxima looks like a tiny ember in the cosmic dark. Its light is warm but subtle, the kind of glow you might associate with a fireplace dying down late at night. It flickers sometimes, releasing mild flares that ripple outward across empty space. But these flares, from this distance, feel like the flutter of a candle flame rather than bursts of energy. This star has planets, small, rocky worlds orbiting close to its warmth. Whether life could exist there, we do not know. But the idea itself feels peaceful. Somewhere out here, bathed in the dim red glow, might be landscapes we have never imagined. Frozen plains, silent oceans, winds that carry slow, long echoes. Proxima belongs to a trio, the Alpha Centauri system. Two larger stars dance with one another in a long celestial waltz. While Proxima orbits from afar like a shy observer, their light overlaps at times, creating a soft blend of gold and red hues drifting through the void. The distance between our Sun and Alpha Centauri is enormous. Yet in cosmic terms, these stars are neighbors. Their gravity fields stretch and blend so gently that we hardly notice where one influence ends and another begins. This invisible connection reminds us that stars are not isolated islands, they are part of a vast community, whispering to one another through gravity. As we drift even farther, more stars drift into view. Barnard's star, moving through space quickly yet appearing calm. Wolf 359, dim and almost ghost-like. Lalande 21185, a quiet red dwarf glowing with a warm blush. Each one unique, each one moving slowly through the dark, shaping the dance of planets and dust around them. The space between stars is filled with motion, but motion stretched through time so long that it feels like rest. Distances that would overwhelm us become soothing when stretched across millions of years. Nothing is rushed here, and as we continue drifting outward, the pattern of stars becomes more intricate, like grains of glowing sand scattered across black velvet. Their gravity shapes invisible pathways through the galaxy, guiding comets, bending dust, writing slow, patient stories into the fabric of space. And we follow those stories, gently, sleepily, deeper into the universe. Part XVI, the spiral arms of the Milky Way. As we drift farther from our familiar cluster of nearby stars, the galaxy begins to reveal itself in slow, sweeping curves of starlight. The Milky Way, when seen from within, resembles a river of pale luminescence flowing across the darkness. But from outside, where we now hover, in soft stillness, its grand structure unfolds like a spiral shell, ancient and impossibly delicate. Each arm stretches outward in a graceful swirl, as if the galaxy were turning in a slow-motion pirouette across millions of years. Starlight gathers in warm clusters, forming glowing islands suspended in the galactic dusk. Dust lanes weave through them like dark silk ribbons, twisting and curling around newborn stars. The gas clouds glow with faint blue edges, like the breath of fireflies illuminating the edges of night. The Milky Way spins, but at a pace so gentle that a single rotation takes hundreds of millions of years. From this quiet vantage point, the stars appear motionless, suspended in a cosmic lullaby. Yet each one is moving along its orbit, tracing invisible harmony lines around the galactic center. As we drift along the Orion Arm, our home arm, the stars resemble scattered lanterns floating down a slow river. Some shine warm and golden, others glow blue-white, their light crisp and young. And then, there are the red giant's elder stars pulsing with deep copper warmth, like ancient embers refusing to fade. Nebulae bloom along the arms like soft watercolor clouds. The Eagle Nebula rises like a cathedral of light, its pillars stretching upward into a haze of starbirth. The Carina Nebula glows with crimson and violet washes, as if painted by cosmic winds. And drifting deeper inward, the Lagoon Nebula flickers with luminous fog, whispering stories of the stars it cradles. Every spiral arm is both a nursery and a graveyard. Some regions brim with newborn stars wrapped in glowing gas. Others hold the remnants of ancient suns that have collapsed into white dwarfs, neutron stars, or quiet, invisible black holes. The galaxy carries its history gently, nothing rushed, nothing discarded. The further outward we float, the quieter everything becomes. The star clusters thin, the arms fade into softer wisps, until only the faint glow of distant stars remains, lining the spiral like dust motes caught in a sunbeam. Ahead lies the galactic halo, pale, vast, and almost dreamlike. Let yourself drift onward, into the quiet realm of Part 7II. Part XVII, the halo and the ghost stars of the galaxy. Here, at the galaxy's outskirts, the spiral arms dissolve into a quiet haze of isolated stars. The halo is not bright, it is not structured, it simply exists. A vast, soft cloud of ancient starlight floating around the Milky Way like a gentle aura. Many of these stars are older than the Sun, older than Earth, older than the spiral pattern itself. They drift alone, separated by enormous distances. Some belong to globular clusters, round, shimmering spheres of tightly packed stars that orbit the galaxy like slow-moving lanterns. Their light glitters with a golden softness, each one a cradle of cosmic memory. Others are rogue remnants of long-vanished dwarf galaxies, the Milky Way having absorbed them over billions of years. Their stars linger like quiet ghosts, carrying chemical fingerprints of worlds that no longer exist. The halo is also home to something stranger, dark matter, invisible, silent, and intangible. It neither glows nor reflects, but its presence shapes the galaxy's rotation. Without it, the spiral arms would not hold together. The Milky Way would unravel. Dark matter acts like a gentle, unseen hand cupping the galaxy, keeping its stars from drifting away. Every so often, we pass through streams of ancient debris, rivers of stars stretched thin over millions of years, remnants of smaller galaxies torn apart by tidal forces. They hang like faint ribbons in the dark, shimmering in slow drifts. There is a deep stillness here, a stillness that feels comforting, like the quiet moment just before falling asleep. Space is almost entirely empty, and yet filled with history. Every star is a whisper, every cluster is a memory. As we leave the halo behind, another galaxy glides into view, Andromeda, approaching us slowly across the dark sea. Let us drift toward it together. In Part A time, Part XVII, the Andromeda approach, a cosmic dance in slow motion. In the far darkness, a soft glow begins to form. At first, it appears like a misty smudge, barely noticeable. But as we drift closer, it stretches wide, revealing long, sweeping arms that spiral outward in elegant arcs. This is the Andromeda Galaxy, our nearest major galactic neighbor, drawing nearer to us in a slow, majestic dance that has lasted billions of years. Andromeda is larger than the Milky Way, its arms spread like pale wings across the night. Stars glow in delicate gradients, blue along the spiral arms, golden near the core, silver across the faint spiral dust. Cloudy regions ripple along its structure like soft strokes of watercolor. Though the galaxies are moving toward each other, their approach is unhurried, so slow that the collision will not come for another 4 billion years. And when they do meet, it will not be violent. Instead, they will merge like two clouds blending in the sky, their stars passing through one another with almost no collisions at all. Gravity will braid them gently together, forming a new, larger galaxy often called Milkdromeda, a serene union written across cosmic time. The closer we drift, the more details emerge. Bright knots of star formation, faint arcs of ancient tidal streams, and the central bulge glowing like the soft heart of a lantern. Andromeda hums with quiet energy, not loud, not urgent, just steady. Dwarf galaxies orbit around it like small, shimmering companions, M32, NGC 205, and others even smaller still, glowing faintly in the outskirts. And as we float along its soft-lit edge, the universe beyond begins to fill with countless more galaxies, scattered like powdered light across an endless field. Follow the drift into Part XIX. Part X6, the cosmic web, threads of light in the dark. Beyond Andromeda, the universe opens into a lattice of glowing filaments, known as the cosmic web. It is the largest structure in existence, a gentle architecture made of galaxies, clusters, and dark matter, all arranged in a pattern that seems almost hand-drawn by the universe itself. The filaments stretch across unimaginable distances, forming bridges of starlight between galaxy clusters. From afar, they resemble delicate threads of silver woven into the night. Between these threads lie immense voids, vast pockets of near-nothingness where galaxies are rare. These voids are not frightening. They feel like deep breaths between cosmic heartbeats. As we float along a filament, clusters rise like soft coral formations in a cosmic ocean. Their combined light glows with a warm, golden haze. Thousands of galaxies gathered together in silent companionship. Some clusters are so massive that they bend the path of light itself, acting as gravitational lenses, magnifying and distorting the galaxies behind them into dreamy arcs of color. Dark matter forms the skeleton of this web, invisible but essential. Without it, the filaments would unravel, the galaxies would drift apart, the cosmic structure would dissolve into scattered chaos. Instead, everything holds, softly, patiently, like a great, sleeping organism. Drift a little deeper, and we find superclusters, immense gatherings of galaxy clusters bound together in slow gravitational choreography. They are among the largest things ever to exist, yet from here, they appear peaceful, almost fragile. The farther we glide, the more the cosmic web stretches around us like a shimmering tapestry. And ahead, at the edge of vision, lies the faint boundary of all we can ever observe. Let us approach it together. In Part XX, the edge of the observable universe. A quiet horizon. At last, we drift toward the farthest frontier, the edge of the observable universe. Not an edge made of walls or barriers, but a horizon, a soft, glowing boundary beyond which even light has not yet reached us. What we see here is ancient, older than galaxies, older than stars. It is the faint afterglow of the Big Bang, stretched thin over billions of years, until it whispers across space as a cool, soft microwave haze, known as the cosmic background. It looks like a gentle cotton mist draped across the farthest sky, glowing faintly in shades of warmth and coolness. These subtle variations, tiny ripples frozen in time, are the fingerprints of the universe's earliest moments. They hold the patterns that would one day seed stars, galaxies, clusters, and all the structures we have floated through. The universe, at this horizon, feels peaceful, not distant, not alien, just quiet. Quiet in a way that feels almost sacred. Everything we have seen exists within this sphere. The stars, the galaxies, the cosmic web, the cradle of the Milky Way. Everything beyond remains hidden, not because it is forbidden, but because light has not yet had time to reach us. In this moment, you might visualize the universe as a soft bubble of starlight expanding gently through timeless darkness. Not rushing, not forcing, simply swelling outward in a slow cosmic breath. We drift at the very edge, looking outward into the unlit beyond, and inward toward the glowing history of everything. And now, with the quiet of the cosmos wrapped around us, we slowly begin our return, carrying the universe's lullaby back with us.